What's up guys, welcome to another color grading tutorial, and today we're going to be turning this into that. Really cool tutorial, very simple to follow, and actually we're going to be covering a lot of really cool techniques that can really improve the quality of the footage. So, here's the shot that we're going to be working, okay? I want to say before we start, special thank you to Matthew Scott for allowing me to use his footage for my color grading tutorials. I'm gonna provide his link in the description, so you guys make sure to check out his website. He have amazing tutorials and his footage is absolutely stunning. So thank you so much, Matt, for doing all your work. So let's begin. We have this footage that was shot on red camera. So we're gonna be working with the red lock film in basically a flat profile. And before we start, let's take a look a little bit to our noise level. And it's not too bad. It's actually very low noise. But for the sake of tutorial, today I want to do something different. We're gonna do temporal noise reduction. Okay, so let's do, let's say 3 frames. Let's see, let's do, okay, 7.4 should be fine. Let's check out before and after. Okay, definitely does great job, but it takes a very big hit on the computer. So whenever you guys doing temporal noise reduction, keep that in mind. It's very heavy for your computer. So my first node gonna be NR, noise reduction. Really cool. Second node that I'm gonna do. Today we're gonna be working with the LUT, and my LUT of choice is always gonna be Rec 709 Codec 2383D55. I love this thing, always work with it. Especially with the red cameras, it's amazing starting point. So I really highly recommend. So I'm gonna call this one a LUT, okay? And next node is gonna be our exposure. Let me fix exposure a little bit. And oh, by the way, when you have shots like that, I know a lot of people, you know, they crank everything like this. They try to get details out of the dark shots, but just so you know, I know a lot of people do that mistake. Whenever you have a night shot, you have to keep it as a night shot or sunset or moody shot or whatever it is. Don't try to feel like if you're doing color grading, everything always needs to be bright, because by doing this, you're actually killing cinematography and you're killing the mood of the actual picture. Not to mention, it's kind of look ridiculous because it's a nice shot. So let's just bring up a little bit of information, just like that. Obviously, it's a sunset, but I want to make it look like early morning, you know? Alright, that looks great. Now, let's do R, G, and B individually. And, you know, I actually really like how saturated it looks. It looks very nice. Let's check out, actually for some reason everything got reset for some reason. It looks a little bit too saturated, so instead of 1000, I'm just gonna dial it down by 800. Okay, that looks great. Let's see now the whole thing, before and after, before and after. Very cool. Okay, so this node gonna be saturation. Saturation. Alright, great. And now I'm gonna create compound node, that way they're not on my way, and basically it's the adjustments that I'm not gonna be touching anymore. So let's create a new node, and in this node I'm gonna call this remove. And as much as I like those people walking right now, and you know, if I would be grading a film, of course I would keep them there. But for the sake of tutorial, I want to get rid of those people. Let's say our shot, we're only focusing on natural environment. So let's keep it like that. let's go back to the first frame. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do my custom mask. Okay, just like that. Okay, it's very simple technique and very effective. Okay, so our mask looked great. And the good thing, it's a very static shot, so I don't have to track anything. Now, let's go to the window or sizing. And let's select node sizing. So I'm gonna click key lock, okay? And I'm just gonna start moving this thing on the side. Okay, a little bit more. Alright, it's done. We got rid of the people. Now let's align this. See, let's align this somewhere like that. And you know, again, to be clear, stuff like that are not color grading program stuff. You know, if you have a project like this, obviously use Fusion, After Effects, or Nuke, or whatever to do this kind of removal. But sometimes you don't have choice and you have to do that. Davinci Resolve object remove is very, very basic. So just to keep in mind, this is not ultimately, you know, one answer for everything. So now that we removed those people, I want to make sure that I'm going to introduce a little bit of feathering. Okay, let's see if everything blends. Okay, you know, it blends pretty good. For the tutorial, it's fine. Obviously, there's more work needed, but let's keep it like this for our tutorial. I'm just trying to get the point across. So we removed people. Looks fantastic. And now I'm gonna create a new node, and I'm gonna convert it to the parallel mixer. So everything in the parallel mixer, all the adjustment in every node inside parallel mixer is gonna be working simultaneously. What that means? That means each node in the parallel mixer gonna be working together instead of overlapping, stacking on top of each other. So it's actually very, very easy. Think of it as a blender. Whatever I'm gonna do right now being blend together, and parallel mixer basically working as one. So let's do first node, and I'm gonna call this sky. Okay, and in my sky, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use the Bezier window or the curve, however you want to call it, and I'm gonna do my own custom curve, just like that. Okay, sloppy curve, but looks great. And now I'm gonna go to the qualifier and I'm gonna create a mask, or a matte, I should say. Let's turn on selection, and I'm only gonna be affecting the brightest parts of the area. I personally love the Luma qualifier in Davinci Resolve, but everything else, not so much. If you try to, for example, qualify the skin, it's not really doing a good job in my experience. That's why I'm always trying to avoid working with the secondaries, because you're sort of really gambling whenever you do that kind of work. So let's introduce a nice feathering, okay? And now let me give it a little bit of boost in the highlights. Okay, that looks really cool. Actually, I can probably do like that. Alright, that looks great. Obviously, our mask looks funny, but it's very easy to fix that. We're just gonna soften it a little bit. And I'm gonna do a little bit inside and a little bit outside, so everything gonna blend in very nicely. That way, what we've done, it actually looks like the sun just barely sitting behind the clouds, and we still sort of have that nice halo going on. Let's see, let's play it back. Very cool. And in my second node, I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna call this Sky 2. And in the Sky 2, I'm just gonna add a little bit of depth, just like this. Okay, let me create another mask. Okay, and this one I'm basically sort of gonna overlay it on top. Okay, just like that. We're gonna add a little bit of contrast to make sure everything blends nicely. Alright, and let's check it out. Before and after. Before and after. So now everything looks really cool. Okay, we have the skies going, and we have sky 1 and sky 2 relighting. Now, what else can we do to make the shot a little bit better? Let's think about it. We have the sun that gives a very nice general big halo. We have another light on top of it. And what can we do? We can probably add another light somewhere in the middle to give it a little bit more depth. So let me create another parallel node, okay? I'm gonna call this one Sky 3. And I'm gonna add this thing somewhere right over here. Let's see. Like that. Okay, and let's give it a little boost. Okay, let's compensate with the contrast. Okay, perfect. So let's check it out now. Before and after. Before and after. So we painted the whole thing and we made it look very 3D dimensional. Alright, so that looks great. Now let's do a little bit of look. Let's call this look. And I always like dialing my looks in the primary bars. And I'm gonna turn off the Lumamix. And by the way, some people ask me what Lumamix does, and I want to show you. For example, let's go to the gamma, which midtones. And we have Lumamix set to 100. Let me move it. You see how everything being affected when I move? Okay, so now I'm gonna reset that. And now I'm gonna put Lumamix to 0. You see? Now only one channel being affected by the adjustments. So, very simple. Keep that in mind. Okay, now let's make it a little bit moody, our shot. Let's see, probably like this. Okay, and I'm gonna go to the key, and I'm gonna dial it down by 300. Let's see, before and after. Before and after. I enhanced a little bit of purple. And now, the third note, I'm gonna call this mids details. It's gonna be our mid-tone details. And our mid-tone details, I wanna kinda have just somewhere over here. I don't wanna have entire picture to be very detailed and sharp. I sort of wanna make sure that the viewer is looking where I want the viewer to look. That's another thing of the color grading. You always want to direct with the color where the person should be looking. Okay, so we have a nice mask going on. And if we're going to go over here to the mid-tone detail, and we're going to crank it up a little bit. Let's see. Just like that. Check it out. Before and after. Obviously, I did way too much, more than I should, but you're getting the point. Look how much more details start standing out from everything else. And finally, I'm going to create one more node. I'm going to do a very classic cinema vignette. Just like this. Okay. I'm going to make it a little darker. I'm going to invert the mask. Okay. Very nice, soft vignetting. Let's make this thing a little bit bigger. Okay. And there we have it. Let's check it out. What we've done. So let's take a look. Before and after. We definitely brought a lot of interesting details and interesting color. And now actually with the light, it looks like the sunset is barely happening. And finally, I'm gonna do my favorite. I'm going to do my favorite film grain. And for my film grain, I always love using film convert. Okay. Just drop it like this. Let's turn off the film color. I want to make sure that we're working with GPU, because too much pressure on CPU is not good. Let's do Super 16 and 50. In many cases, by the way, a film grain actually help you to blend in everything together. So in a way, it's kind of a cheat. Alright, that looks absolutely fantastic. Let me create compound. Put everything in one compound. Okay, did I click it? Okay, there we go. And finally, I want to do luma versus saturation, and I want to make sure that my blacks are staying black. Okay, it's sort of a safety note. Okay, now you can see how we sort of have a color cast everywhere, but if I turn this on, we see that the picture becomes a little bit more desaturated. Basically, I'm protecting right now the very bottom of the black color to make sure that black staying black, which is very important. You want to have a true black color. And if we're moving up or down, we're actually increasing saturation. So something like this looks really, really nice. Very saturated, very dramatic. And let's go to vector scope. And we actually might be a little bit too oversaturated. So let me bring it down. Okay, like that looks great. Let's go back to the parade. Let's check it out. Before and after. And I'm actually seeing here that I might be clipping highlights a little bit. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to the curves like that, and I'm gonna bring down highlights. Okay, just like that. Alright, thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe, and I'm gonna be doing another master series very, very soon, and I'll see you soon.